about that.
Well, this is Marilyn again. I'm thinking about the takeaway for me in this discussion is that the United States did more harm than good by going into Iraq, and that it undermined the role of women that was already established, separate from the rest of what was going on.
No, that wouldn't really be it.
No?
Because women in Iraq, when we declared war, the women in Iraq were so excited because they felt with the U.S. coming in, they would get back all the rights that they had lost in the previous years with all the religious elements. But they thought, in the United States, they believe, women are equal there, and so we will now get our rights back. Well, we said we would, and we didn't. So we didn't do a good enough job, even though we had the opportunity and we failed. But there are some good things that we did. I mean, I think that the 2 years that I spent in Iraq, actually 22 months, the one thing that the Iraqi women would tell me all the time is that regardless of whatever jobs or programs that they got, the one thing that they were most grateful for was that I gave them back their sense of self, their confidence, that they could do things, they could take on things. And, I used to, when I'd work with the women, they'd win a contract and they'd be really, timid when talking to the U.S. guys, the guys that gave them the contracts. And I said, you can't do that. You need to speak up. You need to be clear. You need to put your shoulders back. You need to be really positive. These are, U.S. guys you're dealing with. They're not, you need to let them know you're confident. So I did a lot of public speaking with them. So we did do some good things, but we failed when we got on the ground. We just failed miserably to keep our eye on what should have been a priority. And if there is a next war, if it's wherever it is, and we don't do that, shame on us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just curious about what lessons are learned that can then be applied to another situation. And so far, Eileen, you've not convinced me that we did all that good a job in Iraq.
No, we didn't. I
even though you did a few good things.
Yeah.
I don't think you're trying to convince us.
No, I'm not trying to convince you. We should have done so much better. We failed miserably to really give women what they needed to be successful, and the writing was on the wall. All the elements were there. You had women that had the heart for it. You had women who had the education for it. You had women who had the will for it. But we didn't really help them.
We're going to stop now for the cookie presentation, which is a big part of our Table 2 discussion. So, I want to, at this point, sort of get some input from those of us at the table. How do you feel about what you're listening to? How does it fit in with your life? What are some of your thoughts from here? I'll start with you, Ken Chong.
Well, like I said, I'm very involved in Los Angeles Rotary Club, and we're probably one of the largest in the country.
I'll come speak to the Rotary.
Yeah, it would be fabulous. And we've just been talking about these issues, like I said, especially about focusing on women and girls and how that can make a difference. Rotary has basically eradicated polio. This is an organization that decided we will eradicate polio within 10 years, and they've basically done it. Now with the Gates Foundation, it will probably happen in the next 3 years. The 1,000 cases that are left in the world will be gone. So there's the next thing to tackle. A lot of it's about clean water, but the clean water is because girls in Africa have to go get the water, and because they have to get the water, they're not getting education. They're hiking 5 miles back and forth. A lot of them getting raped on the way, and so putting in wells, which maybe the big picture sounds very sexy. That's kind of a big push, but the reality is it's a girl's issue. It's a woman's issue. So
and the birth rate for babies, Iraq used to be the highest mortality rate because of clean water for babies. Now it's Afghanistan, but water is the key.
So water, water is the key, and obviously, women's issues, I think, is a huge piece, and that's kind of all the things that we're focusing on as a club. We've got a project which our president David Bland really wanted to get behind and put our foundation's money behind, which Rotary International would not do because there's a covenant to not build structures. That's one of the things. It will not build structures in foreign countries. So we were able to raise money to build bathrooms in villages. It's a simple thing, but again, it's a girl's issue because when they have their menstrual cycle and they can't go to school for a week, it takes them out and again kind of throws off their path. So again, all of these kind of issues, I think, it's incredibly important. I'm shocked, like I said, that we don't hear more about it. And, hopefully there's more people like you that have the connections, the contacts that can spread that message.
I bet you if we had 40% women or 30% women or, God forbid, 50% women in our legislatures and our places of power, there'd be a lot more discussion about that issue.
And the whole issue of water is really moot when a bunch of white guys are sitting around the table drinking bottled water. They don't understand the concept of clean water and how necessary it is. You have to have some empathy, as our new president keeps talking about. Pat, what's your comments?
Well, first of all, I'm just delighted that you were able to join us today. I mean, we're very honored. But I think from my perspective as a woman who's been around a long time and a person who's always been interested in what can women do and how can we better improve the lot of other women. One of the things that I used to note as I was coming up is that sometimes women would get to a point of reward, a point of honor themselves, and they would turn their back on the rest of the folks out there, the other women. And I've always found that to be really simply incomprehensible. And you have emphasized today how important it is for us not only not to turn our back, but to stretch out a hand.
Every day.
Really do something important for women. And not to the exclusion of other people, but women need that hand a little bit further stretched out and a little bit more often. I think the politics of it is extremely important, and I totally agree with you that the more women that we can elect at every level, the better off we're all going to be.